Oh, yeah. God is good.
Welcome to the Coffee and Clay podcast. This is your host, John Pham, and our producer, Jason Lee.
What's up?
First off, we're really excited. This is our inaugural episode. Jason and I have been working. I'll put in a lot of time and effort into getting this thing up and going and ready to go. And through a lot of prayer and just a lot of effort, we finally made it. And so, Jason, thank you so much for joining me with this. It's been a long time coming, and it's really excited to have this like up and going finally.
No, it's amazing. Just going on this journey and just trying to build up the podcast is kind of something we've been wanting to do. And credit to all John. I mean, John's been doing a ton of work on the front end to actually bring this to fruition. So, we're just super excited to have this
it's
opportunity.
It's just crazy to see like the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's been moving me to do this. And so at moments where I'm like, man, do I really want to go edit or do I really want to do this stuff? I just feel like the Holy Spirit's just like giving me the strength and like pushing me forward to get this on. So yeah. I'm super thankful. And thank you to you too, Jason. There's a lot of this technical background, a lot of the technology we've used here. I had no clue about any of this stuff. It was all foreign to me. And so just to be here and have this set up and have all this stuff, the cameras, the mics, and everything in here, I just do appreciate Jason. So thank you again.
No, you've been picking it up. I mean, really easily. Like I haven't really taught you that much, honestly. Like it's all been, self-learning. So
yeah,
internet's an amazing thing.
Oh yeah. Like again, I don't want to go too much into it, but YouTube, there's a lot of stuff out there on YouTube. Anyways, I just want to introduce our podcast a little bit. Here at Coffee and Clay, the purpose here is to really showcase the humanity of the church here on earth, Christ's church here on earth. And we believe that the church has two aspects to it. It's the divinity and the humanity. There's a lot of things out there that really go into the divinity of the church. It goes into the theology of the church and just, the divinity of Christ. But one thing that we kind of don't really highlight and don't really talk about and sometimes miss is the humanity of the church. And so with this podcast, our goal was to really highlight that, bring out the stories of the humans who make up God's church here on earth and share their stories, and to see for us how God walks with them, how God walked with them in every single step, and how at moments they may have felt God or may have not felt God. And through these stories, we hope to help people find their relationship with God. They may be going through some of the similar situations that these individuals are going through. And through hearing that, you can share in the journey, share in the hardships, share in the joys and the beauties, and share in the moment, in the fact that God is with them and with you every moment of the step of the way. So,
well said. Exactly. And with that, we get to enjoy, a little cup of coffee. So.
Oh yeah. I think I'm a little bit of a coffee fanatic. You'll see every episode we do, we'll roast a coffee for the guests. I'll brew a cup of coffee, how they drink it, how they like it, and we'll talk about their coffee journey. And again, I reiterate this, as coffee is such a personal thing, and everyone has developed their taste for coffee and has gotten there through different experiences. So just hearing that too is kind of a little fun thing we like to share and showcase too.
Yeah, no, I'm not too much of a coffee drinker, but I'm definitely got more into it the last few years. I mean, definitely having a baby and everything that, the sleepless nights, they're real.
Yeah.
Like getting, have to wake up a few times during the night, definitely changed the way my life used to work in some sense, when I was single, it was easy to just like, wait, I don't know. I'd go to bed at like 11 or 12 and then get up basically at 9 or so and, have that 9 to 10 hours of sleep. And then now it's like, nope, you get like 6 or 5 hours a night, something like that. So, just on my way back to work, just to stay up, I gotta drink some. I get some form of coffee.
We'll get you into the coffee.
Yeah, I definitely like the mochas. That's more my flavor. So so it's kind of a nice little thing that I personally like to do. But definitely get into it. Like my wife loves it and everything. So trying to learn more about it. And I'm not as a fanatic as John here, but definitely know a lot of people that love coffee. So
yeah. And just to go off a little bit on why we chose the name Coffee and Clay, I think it's a genuine thing where humans, we like to share in story, but also share in food and drink. And one of the most common things we share with each other is coffee. We always ask each other, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. Let's go sit and talk and have some deep, meaningful moments.
Yeah.
So that's why we picked coffee. And the reason for clay is, in the day, we realized that, we are just clay. We are dirt, and God has formed us through our various experiences and molded us to who we are today, and are going to continue to mold us for the rest of our lives. And that beauty. And first, people were thinking, "Oh, coffee and clay. This is a pottery podcast." But no, we're not a pottery podcast. We really are just here to hear and have human conversations, and to really listen, and to really share and highlight the stories of the people here who compose of Christ's church. And so,
so we're excited to embark on this journey, just like hopefully everyone that's listening to us.
Yeah. And so then how these episodes will work is we'll start off and do a little bit of banter. Yeah, just like catching up a little bit with Jason, because I don't get to see Jason every day. We probably see each other maybe once or twice a week. And oftentimes when we meet up each other, we're trying to work on stuff. And so we don't really get to catch up with one another. So I think that's one thing that's really good too. And we like to share, we want to share with you guys our lives too. We're human. We have very interesting. I guess I wouldn't say we have very interesting lives, but I think that our lives are,
we're catching up. We're trying to grow our friendship. I mean, we have a good friendship, but
Yeah, and we want our listeners, and especially you guys at home too, just to get a glimpse into our lives too, and just build that relationship. And so again, we're just going to share a little bit. But again, if you guys want to skip this part, that's totally fine. I think that's what the real part of this podcast is, the interview. And then that's the meat and cheese of things. And so if you feel free, if you want to skip ahead and every episode, please feel free to go do that. But if you want to listen to what's going on in our lives, please go ahead too.
Go on. Yeah. So how's it going?
It's been good, man. Life's been kind of crazy. A lot of new stuff, a lot of new things. Yeah, I told Jason this a little bit ago, but my wife is pregnant, and so we're expecting our first child.
Yeah,
and then Jason, you just had your first kid. How long ago?
7 months ago, or six and a half.
Okay,
yeah,
so
6.5, 7 months ago. So
that's past
about that.
Okay,
that's about
Okay, so and you're at the phase where it's past waking up every couple hours, every 30 minutes, right? And is she able to sleep through the night now?
Yeah, she to some extent she's able to sleep throughout the night. Lately, no, because I think she's starting to teeth, and she was probably at month 3 or so. She was to some extent, but it's very hit or miss.
Yeah,
maybe for a few days she's able to sleep through the night, and then just because babies are very sensitive to a lot of new different things, it's easy to obviously wake up and everything. So she wakes up here and there. So I'd say on average 2 times a night.
Okay.
Maybe now we've been blessed to have once, but she'll maybe wake up in the middle of the night. Typically wakes up at 6 or so.
Okay.
Or before 6, and then from there just. Yeah, I try to.
What is the quality of sleep like?
It's not great. Well, it's a little tough. I've definitely gotten used to it. Before having a baby, I thought I probably would never be able to sleep for 6 hours. I know before sleeping 6 hours, just getting up early it was terrible for me. I was so used to just sleeping, my straight 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a night. But yeah, waking up for, getting 6 hours or 5 hours it was so tough before. But, with a baby, you just have that meaning, that purpose to get up every day to basically go and, take care of her and everything.
And you guys are still feeding, right? Bottle feeding?
Yeah, we bottle feed and everything. Okay. So
that's one thing that I've noticed going through a little bit, like my wife being pregnant, and you probably noticed the same thing too, is God bless our wives. the physical change, the hormonal change, and the psychological change that happens in order for a woman to have a child is insane. And I see my wife and the stuff that she has to go through. I cringe myself because I'm like, I could never go through this. I'm like, man, I am so weak compared to my wife.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely underestimate what they have to go through in order to have a baby. So
God is so good because like he created like women to be able to carry a child, like carry a child and then care for the child and then feed the child. That is so beautiful, and that is insane. But also it's a lot of difficult moments for the woman. And so as a husband, like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can't do anything. I feel so helpless. I can help like cook and do everything else, but and then the day it's like I just still feel so helpless. I can't go and feed my child. I can like feed from the bottle.
Yeah.
I haven't fed from the bottle, but you feed.
Yeah. No, I mean feeding from the bottle allows like for both parents to kind of be involved, like versus breastfeeding. The thing is that only she could.
Yeah,
mainly breastfeed, right?
Yeah.
At least in the bottle, like I can help during the nights. Like she could sleep through, and I can get up and get a bottle, warm it up, and then kind of feed her, and then change her, and then kind of try to put her back to sleep. Rock her back to sleep in some sense. So usually she's gotten used to that, but it's definitely really tough. The first what did I say? 6 weeks probably or a month. Definitely first month is definitely the hardest. But no, after you get through it, like you get used to it. I mean, and you're a fireman and everything, so I'm sure you're used to strange, like hard sleep schedules, different sleep schedules through the night. So I think you'll be fine.
It's different though, because like this is constant. Like for me, it's every third night that I have to go through this. And some nights we don't get any calls, so I got to sleep through the night. Again, sleep at the firehouse is never sleep at the firehouse is never good sleep because you're always worrying. Did I miss a call? Did I sleep through an alarm? Did I sleep through a vocal alarm or something like that?
Does that happen?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
really?
Some guys who are super tired, they'll sleep through it, and that's a fear because no one gets like really mad like if it's once or twice in an accident. Yeah. But as you know, as a person who wants to contribute to the team, and you don't want to be like, oh man, crap, like they got up at like 3 a.m. to go this crazy call and I missed it. And the worst part is you're scared of missing a fire. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. I don't want to know that. So I want to know that my firemen sleep through like when I most do the most.
I haven't heard of anyone missing fires because they sleep through it.
But I was gonna say, like, what do they do if you sleep through it?
I mean, like, it's
so does someone else come? Not another fire department?
No. Like so in Denver, at least for Denver, we have so many resources that go to a fire.
Okay.
And so like there's about like you think, oh, it's probably like one or two fire trucks. No, it's like 5 or 6, and you have 30 plus people there at a fire.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes like you just have guys standing around because there's not enough work to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. The mentality in the fire service is like you want to go to a fire. I know it's some people's worst day, and that's like we're there to protect the property and protect lives.
Yeah.
But for us, that's like what we train to do. Like that's like our bread and butter. Like we'll run medicals all day. Like we'll do medicals, we'll run those calls. But when it comes to fires or some like auto extrications or something cool like that, that's like what gets us going. We'll like sprint to the fire truck for those. And
okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know that. Well, everyone in Denver's rest easy. This is your fire department at work. So this is great. No, I'm glad. I'll try to rest easy at night.
Oh yeah.
You try to not sleep through any alarms.
Yeah. And I don't live in Denver. We don't live in Denver. So we have a different fire department. But
so we're safe.
Yeah. We're more safe because I'm not there. But I think in the day is like I trust in those guys too. I know those guys trained hard and do the right things. And so I still rest easy. I'm not too worried.
No, I trust you.
Yeah.
No, we could do it.
So talking about family a little bit, just kind of transitioning into this episode that we have here. It's something that, looking back and doing the editing and looking at the interview, it touched me a lot. This couple that we've for this episode is Sano and Jenna, and meeting them, talking to them, and interviewing them has been something so grace filled. it's changed my lens on my marriage too, and my marriage, my relationship with my wife. Just hearing their stories, like, just really impactful, and having them talk about some of the difficulties and hardships they've faced through infertility,
Yeah.
and talking about some of the things going through adoption and their family structure. It was so touching for me. My wife was she was sitting behind the board because that day, but she told me afterwards she was moved and she was crying. She couldn't help it because some of those moments were just really difficult moments, and but just seeing how faithful they were to God and how
Yeah.
God was faithful to them.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely I gotta listen to the podcast, and it's really beautiful. I mean I honestly think Sono and Jenna are like saints in the sense of just they just have this beautiful example of like you could see that they showed in multiple points of the podcast that they're trying to follow God's will, and it's beautiful. It's really encouraging, and they just seem so at peace and full of love and joy. And yeah, there's difficult moments and everything, but it's just beautiful, you know. I mean, it kind of comparing like my just kind of seeing and going through life and everything, like you can kind of see just the beauty of them following the will versus if you just look at society or culture.
Yeah, they're the counterculture. They truly are the counterculture. What's going on right now? Because listening to those things, listening to like discerning relationships, I think a lot of us try to idealize what does a discerning relationship kind of mean and what does it look like. And hearing them talk about it and really like taking moments, like they stepped apart, like they stepped away from each other and really took time to discern their relationship. For me, I don't think I ever did that. I
Yeah.
and looking back on those things, we're like, oh yeah, I think that Heidi and I would have benefited from that too. But it's just seeing that and seeing how they took their relationship so seriously. They took their vocation so seriously. Yeah, it's counterculture to what it is today. And everything here is like based off of feelings. Like I feel like I love you. I feel this. I feel this towards you. And that's what marriage is all about. But in the day it's not. And just seeing them journey through that and seeing them grow as human beings and learning about what they had to deal with while growing in that sense with God was so beautiful.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, definitely get what you're saying about like kind of following your feelings. I just feel like if you don't have God, it's really easy just to kind of follow the flow, like whatever the culture wants and everything. And I just feel like it's just not as fulfilling as or as beautiful as I don't know, just kind of what you could see the fruitfulness of like Sono and Jenna and their lives and everything, and that they have these three beautiful children that it's incredible.
Yeah.
They just feel so at peace and joyous and yeah. And so I think it's just a beautiful example of like what happens when you follow God's will or actively trying to, trying to like just place that in your mind when you're coming with big decisions in your life of just saying like taking a step back and saying like, God, what should I do? Like, I want to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's a beautiful example of like what surrendering like looks like.
Yeah. And just being able to trust in difficult moments, especially like dealing with something like infertility.
Yeah.
Infertility is something that's so personal for a lot of couples. And it happens to way more people than I ever expected. It's insane. Like I think I've talked to so many couples in my realm.
Mhm.
And I'd say out of 10 couples, 7 of them deal with infertility. And it's at some point.
That's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot. And I think statistically it might be less than that, but it's just my world I've seen.
Yeah, like anecdotally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean it's the world of I feel like statistics and infertility, I feel like in the Catholic community, if you're open to life, you probably see more. I mean, I would imagine statistically that you see more people that are probably dealing with infertility because they're always open to life.
Yeah.
But the thing is if they're trying to compare the numbers to like just the general population of the United States, that number is probably lower because not everyone's trying to have kids all of a sudden.
But I think still like with that is infertility, and especially with a couple, people don't want to talk about it. And
Yeah.
it's a very personal thing. It's a very hard thing. And people going through that, having difficulties having children suffer oftentimes in silence, suffer in things where they go to their friends' houses. They hear their friends talking about their children. They hear their friends talk about their pregnancies. Well, they can't have that. And it's so difficult and it eats them inside. And just having Jenna and Sano be openly sharing about that and talking about that really is a grace from God. And allowing them to share inside a little bit like what they felt and what was going on and the darkness they felt. But to still in the end of the day knowing that God was with them. And then at the afterwards, God giving them a different direction, allowing them to have a family, but in a different way through adoption. And adoption was something I thought about in my mind growing up, but never really like said, oh, that's a true thing. That's a possibility. And that could happen. And that's something that like a lot of families can go through. And I knew a handful of kids who were adopted in high school and throughout my life, but never seeing, never really meeting people who've actually gone through and adopted kids and adopted 3 children.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like going through the podcast and seeing them go through it, it just makes it more comforting and the possibility of just adopting a child. Cause it seems so scary, but when you see someone else go through it, it's like, no, you can do it. And I mean, the impact you have on these kids' lives, it's remarkable, And just seeing how much love Jenna and Sano and they have when talking about their children. And I've seen it firsthand just how much they love their children. And it's so touching to know that you can still have this true, genuine parental love for a child and really care for them to the nth degree, like God cares for us. Yeah.
And it truly is moving. And so that was just a little bit of the intro into the episode. And to our viewers, I hope you enjoy this first episode that we have. I think it's something that really was a gift from God to us and for you guys. And just take a listen. And if you do like what you see and do like the interview, please help us out. We're new and start upcoming podcasts and an upcoming show. So if you can, like and subscribe, and that would really help us out. Thank you so much again. Oh,
yeah. I do want to say one thing real quick though.
Yeah.
Definitely like and subscribe, but in all seriousness, if I was going to say, if anyone deals with infertility, if you're in the Denver area, you should definitely go check out Bella and Vera fertility clinic.
Oh yeah. And there's so many resources out there that I never knew about.
Yeah.
And I never understood, this being from a man's side, I never understood. And so there's so many resources out there. And so you just have to reach out and look.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend looking at like NAPRO technology on Google or regenerative type of care. Yeah, definitely check that out if you're kind of interested in that.
Yeah, and I think too, we'll link some resources down below in our comment section, in our description section, and you can find some more resources through there.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, everyone. So
yeah, thank you again. God bless, and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Coffee and Clay podcast. This is your host, John Pham, and our producer, Jason Lee. Just a little tad bit here. Jason Lee couldn't make it today, so we have my wife, Heidi, sitting in his spot. So thank you, Heidi. Today we have 2 guests, Sano and Jenna. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Really is a pleasure. I know Sano we know Sano from my wife's best friend, Grace. That's her older brother. And we met actually at her husband's bachelor party. And so, yeah, we met through there. And then we met Jenna through Sano. And so I've met you like a handful of times. I think it was at Grace and Bryce's wedding, but we actually haven't had a sit down introductory until today. So it was really wonderful meeting you.
Nice
getting to know you. And thank you guys so much for being on here today. It really is a blessing. And so before we start ending off, we typically have our guests start us off in prayer. So I like to ask one of you guys to start off in prayer before we, start our interview today.
Yeah, okay, I can do it. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, thank you for just providing us this space and this opportunity to just reflect on the blessings that you've brought upon us, but also the challenges that you've been with us in. And I pray that your Holy Spirit just prepare our hearts to be open to share what needs to be shared, discern what might be helpful to others, but also just to have a really good time discussing all that you're doing in our lives, knowing that you're with us and that all these things, the good and the bad, the struggles and the blessings are for a greater good. And we offer all these up for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Well, again, welcome, guys. I know you guys are traveling a little bit this week, so you guys actually live in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what part of Minnesota are you guys like, what is it, the Northwest you were saying earlier?
Yeah, I think it'd be considered the Northwest.
Okay, so like what town in Minnesota?
Plymouth, Minnesota.
Plymouth, okay. You know, I was pleasantly surprised, like, you guys don't have the Minnesotan accent. I don't hear the, oh, you betcha. Grab me a big.
It might come out later.
Oh, yeah, when you guys, like, does it, like, Sona, do you have it? Like, have you lived there long enough to have it?
I've been there 12 years.
12 years, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I've picked up on it. Maybe the O.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Is it like, kind of like that? Okay. Yeah, because like the further north I get, the more Canadian it sounds.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so, but like, I don't know. I have friends who are like, I have a friend from Shakopee, and she is like, every time she talks, she gets going. It just comes out. She's like, oh yeah, John, grab a bag, grab 2 bags. Oh yeah. I was like, oh man. I love the Minnesota accent though. It's like, what is it? The true essence of the Midwest, I think.
I remember because I wasn't born and raised in Minnesota, but I came to Minnesota. And I think there's a movie, Brother Bear, where there's a moose.
Oh, yeah,
and I remember being like, whoa, all these people sound like the moose from Brother Bear. So
yeah, Brother Bear was one of my favorite movies growing up. It would always be like a minivan like movie. So like back in the day when like we had the Honda Odyssey or something like that and like the little DVD player. And so it'd be like, pop it open, Brother Bear be on. And so we just watched that on loop 24. One of my favorite movies. I remember that vividly.
Was it, okay, I didn't know if it was a moose or not, like something like that.
Or yeah, I still don't know the difference to this day. So, anyways, so kind of one of the pillars like we have in the show is just talking a little about coffee. You know, coffee for us is kind of like a very personal thing. I think everyone has some way to kind of get energy in the morning. There's most of us normal people drink coffee. Some of the crazy athletes like, no, I can go for a 10-mile run, stuff like that. I don't do that. Majority of the normal people, we drink coffee or tea or something like that. So I wanted to get a little more, like into how you guys started drinking coffee, how you guys drink your coffee now, and then just talk a little bit what coffee I kind of made, roasted for us today. And so just kind of start off with that is today I roasted a coffee from Thailand. And it's interesting because Thailand is not really known for their coffee. You think of coffee like Arabica coffee, you're like, oh, Ethiopia, South America, Central America. That's where the majority of the big players are and the big plantations are. But actually Thailand and Asia is actually, Vietnam, I think, is the second largest exporter of coffee in the world, but they export a different coffee. But Thailand is growing there too because the environment's so rich for coffee. So today's coffee is from Thailand. It's from, let's look at my notes, Hua Maliam. So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's a region in central Thailand. And so it's grown about, 1,200 meters above sea level, so like 3,937. This coffee, so it's washed coffee. So washed coffee means that how it's processed is when it's harvested, right? They just take off all the fruit. The fruit, it's a coffee cherry. They take out the cherry itself and all the layers and just let the beans sit and it dries. And so it's wash process. And then I roasted it to medium, so about 215 degrees Celsius. And so that's when I opened it up and let it stop roasting. So that's more of like a medium roast there. But I did more of an espresso type of thing because this is kind of a better way to do espresso. I roasted for a little longer, let it develop longer. But you should taste a hint of citric sweetness, spiciness, and then chocolate. Hopefully you get that. Oftentimes, like I look at all these tasting notes, I'm like, do I actually really get this? Yeah, like a little bit here and there. Yeah, this morning I did a little Americano. I did a little espresso shot and then did some hot water with it. And then so this morning, Jenna, what did you have this morning?
A delicious caramel latte.
Caramel latte, okay.
So good.
And then Sano?
I can't actually remember. Was it
I think it was an almond milk latte, a mocha.
Mocha,
yeah. with the caramel. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's what it is. I don't actually. I actually usually just do black coffee.
It was black coffee. Okay,
but if we're like traveling or I want a special coffee, then I'll get something like a mocha.
Okay.
So that's why I don't really know too well about.
Okay, so it's the same but with me when I travel. I'm like, oh, you know what? I want some little foo-foo coffee here. I want something a little special.
Yeah.
I want a little like latte or something like that. And so it's a little bit like, your coffee story a little bit. How did you guys start drinking coffee? Like what age and kind of how did you guys get into drinking coffee?
I started in college actually because my parents never made drank coffee.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So then all of a sudden all my friends were drinking coffee. And I was like, I've got a lot to study. So this is a practical thing. And also everyone else is doing it.
Okay.
And then I really liked the taste of it.
Were you drinking like black coffee in the beginning or more of like, oh, let's do like the caramel frappuccino or like the frappuccinos?
Total foo-foo.
Okay.
Like from the machine where they put like the cappuccino mix.
$6 Starbucks. Yeah.
But you always have that phase and you're like, oh, you know what? This is awesome. This is like gets everything I need. It tastes delicious and I get the caffeine kick. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How about you, son? When did you start drinking coffee?
I don't think I actually drank in college.
Really?
I didn't start drinking coffee until my first job.
When
I realized that you would get fired if you fell asleep in meetings.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I took it more seriously.
Okay.
I took coffee every morning.
Okay.
Stayed awake.
So was it like just black coffee then? Or was it like
I actually did. I think I mixed it with some almond milk.
Okay. And then like, was it just like the coffee they had like ready pot made in one, or did you make it yourself every morning?
No, I had just the drip coffee.
Drip coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. And then coming to today, so how has your coffee evolution kind of changed? Like going from college, frappuccino, or is it still similar today, or is it kind of like developed? Like, you know what, I can cut back on some of the sweetness, cut back on some of the the creams and whatnot.
We hit an inflection point actually here in Denver.
Really?
Several years back, we were at our cousin's place. They're hosting us, and they made us a pour over coffee with a Chemex.
Okay,
right? It was Derek and Stephanie.
Oh yeah.
You've probably met them, right?
I don't.
The Boss Hearts.
No, I don't think I've met them. No.
So they poured us some coffee, and I think Jenna, you noticed how smooth it was, and so we asked them more about it. They said, yeah, it's exactly 60 grams of coffee grounds per 1,000 milliliters, and they showed us their whole setup. And we went back home, and I think I got Jenna the whole setup for her birthday.
Oh yeah,
and that's when we started only drinking pour over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was talking as a pour over this morning, you guys knew all about it already. Okay,
Yeah.
So that's like I was doing pour over for a long time, but I in the morning it takes so long, and I'm like, man, I gotta get out the door real quick. So, but I do really like the smoothness of the pour over and the just it takes time, and it's nice when you're kind of delaying your gratification, satisfaction. You're just delaying it. You're like, okay, I'm making it taste good, and then when it hits, you're like, oh yeah, it was well worth it.
Yeah,
that's awesome, sweet. Well, thank you guys again for being here. And so we're kind of let's move directions a little bit into what we're talking about today. One of the themes I really want to talk about is just family life and just really highlight in the church itself, the diverse families we have. And I think you guys really are the epitome of that. I think just, again, being a mixed couple and kind of just hearing your story and your journey really amplifies that. But just before we start into that, I'd just like to know more about who you guys were growing up. So maybe can you guys talk about what was it like growing up in each of your households, and what kind of, how did your parents and kind of how your family, what was faith life for you guys in those realms during that time?
Well, I can start. So it's me and my brother. We grew up in a small town of Oregon.
Okay.
Kind of like a farming community.
Oh, really? What part of Oregon?
Sublimity is the town's name, and it's
Sublimity. Okay.
I know, it's really cute, and it's 20 minutes outside of Salem.
Okay.
So it's more farmland, really grassy. Salem's the grass seed capital, I think, of the world. I could be wrong.
Grass seed, like Kentucky bluegrass, grass seed, and stuff like that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Wow, okay.
So it was very beautiful, super lush.
And that's Eastern Oregon, right? More Eastern?
It's northern.
Okay.
North central.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I'm wait a minute. Yeah, so I grew up there with my brother until I was age 9, and then we moved to Utah.
Okay.
And I would say... and then I lived in Utah until I went to college in Minnesota. But our family culture, we were homeschooled all the way up, all through high school, which was a huge part of life. Faith was just interweaved in everything. We'd always start the day with morning prayer, and we'd usually do a rosary, and my mom would do the daily readings, and we'd go to daily mass probably about twice a week growing up. And it was very beautiful. I felt very close to my brother. We just had a really more, I guess, slower pace of life. And we're pretty involved in like the local homeschool communities too. It was, I think, a little smaller back then. And then especially in Utah, it was a very small group of Catholic homeschoolers. That's like a very...
Because you guys are like in the central of where all the Mormons were, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys in like Salt Lake, or were you guys in like different, like closer to Provo or something like that?
Yeah, we were about, I guess, 20 minutes outside of Salt Lake and Sandy. We're at the base of the mountains kind of there. So.
Okay, nice. Yeah. It's funny because every time I hear like homeschool, like back in the day, it's always like the weird kids. But you know, it's so funny now where like, all the homeschoolers are like now way more, they're way more normal, you know, and like they're not, you know, identifying as cats or animals or something. It's just so interesting. Yeah. So I was like, and like, it's just so like, because growing up, I was a public school kid. So I was like, oh yeah, the homeschool kids were weird. Like, you know, but then I started meeting more and more homeschool kids. And like, wow, they were way more normal, way more developed. Like, can have full conversations. Barely when I was like, you know, in high school, I was like, how you, son? What was kind of like for you growing up?
Yeah, we so both of my parents were very devout, and so we grew up with like nightly rosary all together as a family. We did like different pilgrimages growing up, traveling at least once I was like 10. There was, you know, I think the teenager years were a little bit trickier. I think they still let us kind of choose whether or not we wanted to go down and do nightly rosary. And so when I was going through my rebellious teenagers, I kind of protested against it. Yeah. But for the most part, I think cradle Catholic, parents were super devout. They sent us to retreats. They prioritized those, encouraged us. Every like sage advice from my mom had some scripture verse, you know, like, seek first the kingdom of God and everything will be added on to you. And it was very supportive in that sense. All of us did some sort of like mission trip, you know, growing up too, especially once we went off to college. A lot of us did YWAM, so discipleship training school. So yeah, it was pretty supportive. And there was also an aspect of it that was charismatic. So both my parents had kind of done YWAM missions when they first got married. And so that's also been kind of a part of our faith upbringing. So. Okay,
nice. And then, were you born here in the States? I remember like something about like you get like how Grace was saying like you guys weren't born in the U.S. Like where did you guys grow up?
Yeah, so Teresa and I were both born in Hawaii. Okay, so like every two kids were born in different states. So my oldest brother and oldest sister were born in Ohio. Okay. Teresa and I were born in Hawaii. And then Grace and Joy were born in Oregon.
Okay. You know what? It was so I thought you guys were born in Korea.
We did live there.
Okay. You guys lived there. So what was like you guys were all born in the States, but why'd you guys move to like Korea at one point?
You know, I'm trying to think of the best way to summarize. I think overall my parents wanted us to like grow up knowing more about our like mother tongue, you know, like where they're from, the heritage, the culture. And so they kind of just relocated us when I was 10, all of us, and just, you know, put us in public school there. We had to learn how to speak Korean within months. We had always grown up kind of understanding it, but then we had to read, write. So yeah, that was when I was 10, so 2000.
So you remember it pretty vividly then, right? Like, yeah. And how long did you guys spend there in Korea?
2.5 years, almost
2.5 years. Okay, yeah. So that was like, you guys probably remember that, and it was like a big shock for you guys. Like, crap, like, I'm in a different country. Well, like, my family's from here, right? And my I guess like my blood is Korean, but like I've never lived there. I kind of feel the same about Vietnam. Like, I'm Vietnamese, but like I'm American. Like, I was born and raised here. Like, I'd never. Before we went back on our honeymoon, like I've never been to Vietnam, so it was like 27 years that I've never been back there. So I'm like, but it's interesting. I could only imagine you being like, oh wow, as a 10-year-old, like this is totally different. I had to adjust.
You know, I remember this vividly. When I was probably 8 or 9, I remember I was with a bunch of my friends, and they were all Caucasian. And I remember looking at the mirror and seeing all of us. And for some reason, I was a lot shorter than them and darker. And that was probably the first time I had this self-awareness that I looked very different and I was maybe a different race.
Oh yeah.
But up until that point, I kind of just always thought, we were all similar. I didn't have that same awareness that.
Oh,
we were
100%.
different. Yeah.
Me too. Like I always, like I grew up, I saw the kid. I remember this vividly. This one kid in my class, he came home. This was like in like the 4th grade, and he came to school, and he had highlights in his hair, and it was like flat hair. It was like, man, he looks so good. Like he looked like Troy Bolton from. I thought he looked like Troy Bolton from High School Musical. I'm like, I want that, and my mom's like, you can't have that. I'm like, why? He's like, because you're Asian. Like it won't look good. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, huh. And then as I got older, I like realized, oh yeah, my hair did not. So I'm bald now. I'm just wearing a hat. I'm not blessed like Son over here with a luscious head of hair, but like I had like the poofy hair, like it just grew out.
Yeah,
it never grew down or straight, so I couldn't do anything with it. And it was just like a lot of Asian kids had that, and so I always wanted to do it, but I couldn't. But then at that moment, I realized, wow, yeah, I'm not the same. I'm not the same as everyone else. But let me ask you guys this: did you guys ever like talk about your childhoods with each other? Because I know like growing up in an Asian household is very different than growing up in like at a Western American household, where it's like I talked about Heidi's all the time. Like it's very different. Where like my parents' discipline structure, what their mentality was, and what they thought was normal, was very different from what Heidi's parents thought was normal in the discipline structure. Do you guys ever talk about that when you guys are dating and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably.
I especially remember we went on an engagement retreat and they were like, hey, dive into your family background. And we had like exchanged stories and I'd met his family. But I think at that point I was like, oh, kind of hit me. Oh, we do have like a different family life. Like you're taking these experiences and thinking this is normal. And I'm taking my experiences and thinking this is normal.
Oh, yeah.
So that I think it was engagement. We were talking about it.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of like, is it an Asian culture thing or is it like a Che family thing? Because for example, like when she first came to visit, she was like wondering like what's the next thing on the agenda, and all of my siblings and even my parents kind of unofficially, we all just eventually take naps sometime during the day. Like she just found us like sprawled out on the couch.
I was very alarmed.
She was wondering like where everyone was. Why aren't we all circled around the table playing board games? And that's when she realized, like, no, that's kind of what my family does when we're on vacation. We all kind of relax, disappear. And so when I went on vacation with her parents, it was a little bit different. Like, they had something planned every minute of the day, and it was always together because there's not that many of us. And so at one point, I think we were at your grandparents' house. They were wondering where I was, and I was I think I was in the bathroom with some time to myself. Like, I just wanted, like, some space, and that was the only place where I could kind of like have a reasonable excuse as to why I wasn't like with everyone. And I realized like, yeah, I'm just used to a little bit more space and not having all the attention on me, because I think when there's a lot of siblings, you're not always the center of attention. There's always someone to divert kind of the focus. Or if they're playing games, like half of us can do something else. But with Jenna, her parents, it was like, there's only 4 of us. So you can't just disappear. You can't play a game together. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of the differences that we've talked about is more of like the bigger family versus smaller family differences, because you're one of 6 siblings, 6 kids.
Yeah, I think like Jenna, you and I, like I grew up with one sister. And so it was kind of the similar thing where like we had a small family and stuff like that. And then Heidi had a small family too. So yeah, I haven't been a part of the big family where you can kind of run. My mom tells me all the time, like the big family, she's like, I never want to be back in a big family. She had 6 brothers and sisters or something like that. And she's like, I don't recommend having a big family. It's just too much. And one of the kids is never going to be able to escape and have time for themselves. It's just always things happening. And so, yeah, nice. And so going past early life and kind of like going to more of like college and maybe young adult life, like single life before you guys met each other, what were you guys kind of like at that time? Like, you guys were like, still, young, but not, like maybe looking to date and to get married and stuff like that, but like still in the single phase of life. What was kind of like that like for you guys?
Like before we met each other?
Yeah. So like just say college or like start getting out of college and working.
I loved college. I just loved having just all the friendships and just studying and living life together with so many good girlfriends. That was just so great. coming out of college, I moved back to Utah and worked there at a children's hospital for a couple years.
Okay.
And that was really good time to be with my family, but also a lot of kind of hard things happened at that time. So I was ready to come back to Minnesota. And when I came back to Minnesota and was living with my best friend, it was just, honestly, it was so idyllic. We're both nurses and just had a lot of time to pray, work, play. It just felt very balanced. And yeah, I was very, very happy to come back to Minnesota. And I felt a lot more rooted in my faith coming back too.
Yeah, I always found it interesting. I think in that phase of our lives, like we're very like, at least for me, we're very like, just gung ho and like, really like, hey, like let's take on the world, and also, you know, like, let's do whatever we can, like for the faith wise, you know, for the church or for Christ, you know, doing some crazy asceticism or something like that, or doing something to offer it up to the Lord, and doing, you know, things that like, you know, really pushing the boundaries a little bit. And how about you, Sana? What was that kind of like similar, or what was like kind of like for you?
I had a bit of like a roller coaster teenage, college, and even I guess early grad, or like once I graduated college journey, let's say, because in high school I was very rebellious. So I'd say a dipping point, and then I kind of came back to my faith, came back to my family, a high point, and then sometime along in college, I kind of, you know, dipped again, kind of fell away from my faith, and then once I got to Minneapolis, I had another, you know, kind of come to Jesus moment, where I got more serious again, and I guess I met Jenna 2 years after that point. So I was very well immersed with like the Bible study group there, the young adults. I was, you know, pouring into my faith. And so, yeah, I think by the time I met Jenna, I was in a better spot. And so my mom always looks back at my time in Minneapolis as a huge blessing. I mean, she's like, you stay there. That's where God did a lot of work on you. And, you know, I've met some of my best friends through like the young adult community, the Bible study group. They're all like people of faith, like-minded. And so, but yeah, I would say leading up to it though, it was rough. And so that's why, there's that song, you know, Relentless Love, I think Corey Asbury, like just how relentless God is, chasing after you, trying to keep you from falling. And even if you make mistakes, he's still kind of pursuing you. That I relate to that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so do you remember a moment where like, or like kind of what kind of led you to kind of more of like, hey, I want to get more serious about my faith? Like what happened in Minneapolis? Like,
maybe to sum up a long story, there was a big breakup.
Okay.
Very devastating. And at the time, and I was kind of like, I didn't know where to turn to, but I knew that that breakup coincided with just a lot of other things going on in my life that weren't right. Like my relationship with God, you know, taking that seriously, focusing on myself, being more independent, not kind of dependent on a relationship or just going with the flow. And so I remember in that moment, I went to the Basilica of St. Mary, and I was praying in front of a statue. I thought it was Mary at the time. I didn't know my saints that well. It was actually St. Therese of Lisieux. And Jenna pointed that out a couple of years later. I was like, oh, well, I have journal entries where I'm saying a prayer. But, you know, I, in that moment, I still was, you know, saying a prayer, asking Mary for help. And it was May 11th. So I have that day kind of in my calendar because I've kind of gone back every year and wrote journal entries about it. But that's sort of where I you know, I was obviously like devastated, crying out. And, you know, I felt, you know, Mother Mary was kind of asking me, she's like, what do you want right now? What do you need? And instead of me saying, I need another girlfriend or I need this, in that moment, I felt the Holy Spirit say, like, you know, you need friends, you need community. And that's something when I realized, yeah, I'm going to invest in that. And that's sort of how I found the faith community, you know, when I was in my, you know, early 20s. And that was sort of the turnaround point. It was kind of like, it wasn't just me like diving into scripture and then having some aha moment. It was like I was surrounded by the right people.
Mm-hmm. And what was kind of like the faith community like in, you know, Minneapolis at that time? Because here in Denver, we're very blessed. Like it's a very vibrant community. A lot of young adults, a lot of things going on, a lot of apostolates, and a lot of like just a lot of good Christians in Denver. And this is very vibrant, very active. But what is it kind of like in Minneapolis, or kind of where you guys are at?
I would say very vibrant. So when I was in Utah a couple years, I was in the Catholic and adult community, and it was very small, very, very small. And it was still beautiful. But coming to Minneapolis, I felt like my world exploded with just the Bible studies, the women's groups. wanting to go to adoration with a friend. There was always, like a sport thing you could do with friends. And I think it's very vibrant there.
Minneapolis St. Paul, I think at one point had the stat for most adoration chapels per capita.
Oh, wow.
I think in terms,
like the 24 hour, right?
Yeah, 24 perpetual adoration chapels.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. And just for our non-Catholic friends who are maybe listening, adoration is like a very, very, very important part of who we are as Catholics. Is where we're able to go and just be present with the Eucharist and essentially just be present with Jesus Christ. And we're just adoring Jesus Christ in that very intimate moment and just having time with him. So yeah, just for those who are not, or who are listening or not Catholic. And so that's awesome though. And so moving on to the next part is kind of like little, how did you guys meet? And so what was kind of like that? What was that like? Was it like a smooth, was it like someone came in and was like, and Jenny, you're like, oh my gosh, look at that stud. Or vice versa. And like, what was that story kind of like? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I probably tell a story a lot. So I was on like a self-initiated dating fast, 6 months.
Wow.
And I started it and I said, no matter who I meet, I'm gonna fast from dating. It's not like anyone, I wasn't necessarily like, being asked for a lot of dates or anything anyways, but I went on this 6 months fast and I said, I'm not going to date anyone until, I think my birthday was like the stopping point, which is kind of funny. August 13th. Today's my birthday, right? So,
sorry. Happy birthday.
and I was on like the last month of my fast when I went to it was like a block party with our church. And I had that 6 months fast. And I also had this self-imposed rule where I said I wasn't going to date anyone from the Bible study group because I wanted that to still be kind of like a comfortable space where, I don't have to worry about like things being awkward. But I did say that I was like, I'm always open to dating friends of people in the Bible study group.
Oh,
so
okay.
The day I met Jenna, July 11th, actually, I was at the block party, and one of her friends, Rachel, said that she had she was bringing some friends over to the block party, and that's when I was like, okay, well, I could be open, but obviously I was still on the dating fast, and Joy was actually with me too, a youngest sister, and so I think we hit it off. We were just talking. She was telling me that she's in St. Paul, goes to the cathedral, plays music. I was sharing a little bit about myself, but I was also trying to. I was kind of measured because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like being too flirty, I guess, because I was still on this fast. But all the while I was already making all these calculations in my head. Okay, once I'm done with this fast, I'm going to start going to the cathedral and see if I can see her there. But yeah, that's sort of, I think the first time we met, it was just mainly just like chatting, small talk. I still tell this story, but I wanted to see if she was like, I guess, interested. And so I would do this trick. I call it the smile trick, where I'd look at her and I would smile.
Okay.
And I would see how long she would like also smile back. And I realized that she was holding her smile for a really long time, longer than most like people I meet, that are just like, oh, it's just a guy. And so that's how I kind of mentally like made this decision in my head that, oh, she probably likes me because she was holding her smile a lot. I didn't know that she just does that in general. She's a very joyful, bubbly person. So maybe it was a little misleading, but it was whatever. I think God kind of put that confidence in my heart to say, hey, like, keep your eye on her.
So his telling of the story, is it kind of pretty accurate to what actually happened and whatnot?
Yeah, I would just add I'd only moved to the cities 2 weeks before.
Oh, okay.
And I was actually unavailable then, and then also went on a dating fast like 2 months later. So then I guess I'll just finish the story by saying we didn't re-meet again until December.
Wow, okay.
Just with kind of ships in the night. He was looking for me at the cathedral. I was going to evening mass, not morning mass, because I was a night shift nurse. So we were kind of ships in the night. And then when we finally met up again, I had a Christmas party and I invited him to it. And it was just the perfect timing.
Okay. So was that kind of the first move then? She was like, hey.
The first move was actually, so
it wasn't the smile, right? Would you consider the smile the first move, or like the inviting to the Christmas party the first move?
It was probably the Christmas party. I will say in between that time, so obviously I we lost touch because we didn't exchange numbers or anything.
Oh, wow.
And I just was planning to see her casually at the cathedral in St. Paul. I went to the Basilica in Minneapolis, but and I couldn't find her on Facebook or anything like that. But it was a couple months later, I saw her roommate at a retreat, and I friended the roommate on Facebook. And then I noticed that, then I found her profile. I was like, oh, yeah, cool, Jenna Franklin. And then it was funny because I friended her, and then she sent me a message. And, back in the day, if someone initiates a message with you after you friended them, that's the first move, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
So Jenna made the first move.
I thought it was strange that this man would just like friend me and not say anything.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, hello. Like, this is Jenna. I remember meeting you. I did think he was very cute.
I took a screenshot of her message, sent it to a friend, and was like, she likes me.
Oh, yeah. You're like, I'm in.
I did.
No. It's just like, it's always nice when sometimes, like, for me, it's when the girl makes the first move. I try to do it with Heidi. Where I was like, here, I'll give you my number. And then so like let her do it. And it's like, oh, I felt wanted, like for a while, it's always typical. Oh, men have to go do everything. So it was kind of nice. Like, oh, we got a message. Okay, sweet. Yeah, I know. I'm in a good spot. That's awesome. So, and talk a little bit like then after meeting and stuff, what was dating like? Like what was dating and kind of like, where did God kind of play into this dating realm? Because I know like I'm guessing you guys were kind of in the boat where like, you guys were like dating for a good intention, right? Because I think a lot of times there's multiple ways of dating, right? Dating just to date, dating just to have fun, dating just so. I'm guessing you guys are more of a dating for intentful dating, right? For like trying to truly find that partner. So what was kind of that like, and where did God kind of like play into that and with you guys?
It was such a beautiful relationship for me. I think it was very God-centered dating him, and I felt like we were able to really share what was important to us and get to know each other in a lot of fun ways because we were in a lot of young adult things together. So I got to see him, from a distance, like volunteering. I got to see him with my friends. I got to see his friends. It was very, it felt very natural and easy in that sense. And it was very intentional, I would say. But yeah, we had like a interesting breakup in the middle of our relationship. Oh. Which I don't know if you want to say anything more about the dating part.
Oh, no, yeah. I think that's a good point that like it was, sometimes when people meet someone, maybe they're part of a faith community, but then they meet someone and then they kind of start like not being a part of the same events. That didn't really happen for us because we were all kind of in the same circle. So in some ways, like our faith community kept growing, our, her, girl friendships, my, guy friendships, they kept growing kind of on the side too. So we weren't like, I wouldn't say we were like too interdependent or anything on each other during that time, which was, I think that was bared a lot of fruit.
And if you don't mind me asking, it's like the temporary breakup and stuff like that. When did you guys come back? Jenna went on she went on the Camino. Maybe you want to share about that.
Yeah, so I went on like this 35-day pilgrimage, which is in Spain. Yeah. You haven't heard of the Camino de Santiago, where you walk from France to Spain. Anyways, so it was a long journey, and I went with my friend, and I told Sano the day that we went on our first date, I said, I'm doing this. I'm quitting my job. Are you okay with this? This is in like 9 months. He was like, that's so cool because I've done it too. So we bonded over this. I went on my pilgrimage to Spain, and there I had an encounter with God, and it wrecked my soul. And I felt like the only answer I could give God was to give what was most precious to me. Because I said, you love me so much. What can I give you? And in that moment, I felt like I was being called to religious life. So I said, well, Sano's the most precious thing to me right now. So I came back, and I was pretty determined. I cut my hair in Spain. Couldn't even talk to the hairstylist. I was like this, because I just felt like I need to like chop my hair, come back, break up with him, and discern religious life. So that was the reason for our breakup.
And do you guys think after that breakup and with like, maybe discerning out of religious life, or I'm not sure how far you got into that, like, did that really kind of make your relationship stronger, do you think, afterwards?
Yeah, it was 6 months. And, from compared to all, my previous breakups, this one was one where it was very upsetting, but at the same time, I didn't want to compete against God.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of peace of just, if God willed this and he has the best plan for me, then I can just let it go and see what's next in store for me. And I remember I just felt a lot of peace that God was going to have someone better for me, and it was just new and, Jenna 6 months later after discernment, just having a lot of peace and, about her calling and so.
Nice. And if you don't mind me asking, who did you discern with? Like which order or?
So I didn't formally go to live in a convent, but I did a lot of spiritual direction and I went on a retreat with the Franciscan sisters in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I really wanted an order with a habit, so I was looking more at those orders and was interested in the Dominican sisters too in Michigan. So, and then also there's a beautiful order called the Handmaids of New Ulm in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
And they have a vibrant young women communities. So, I just kind of did a lot of retreats and quieted my life down, just totally quieted my life. And
Yeah, that's beautiful. And so I guess once you guys came back and moving towards engagement and marriage, what was kind of that moment where you guys felt like, hey, this was it? Did you guys talk about it beforehand? You guys have a plan and everything? Or it's kind of hey, it was a surprise for the engagement? Or was it at what moment did you guys know? For you guys?
I think we were being cautious about being too presumptuous about, whether or not we were going to be engaged or married. So we didn't really talk about it a lot. Mm-hmm. It was there was never this language of oh, we're going to live together, we're going to get married. And so, but when we got back together, I did a lot of soul searching and discerning because in my mind, I was okay, if I'm getting back together with her after 6 months and I've had this time alone, maybe more removed from it, then this is more serious. And so when we got back together, I was planning to propose within months, which is essentially what we got back together in April. I was ready in June, and then I proposed in August on my birthday. Oh, today.
Oh, wow.
2017.
what a beautiful day.
So
Wow.
it was 8 years ago. But I was going to propose to her sooner, but the one delay was I really wanted to get her father's blessing.
Okay.
And I had only just met them, I was kind of just starting that relationship again because we had taken a break. And so he wanted a little bit more time to get to know me. So we had weekly phone calls. And then it was a couple of weeks before my birthday when he said, okay, you've got my blessing. And I said, okay, great. Well, I've got this date. And I had everything planned out at that point. But
that's awesome. I think that's important too. I think at least for the man, for the men's side, it's really just getting the blessing from the parents. I know sometimes it's certain situations it's a little more difficult, but I think that's an important thing too. Really having that fruitful relationship with in-laws, and that's kind of the really good way to start off in the right foot. So yeah, I just see a lot of my friends' marriages and even mine, it's so fruitful because of that, and you can be really a part of the family and whatnot. That's beautiful. Okay, and then so engagement wise, and so during engagement wise, did you guys really take to discerning marriage during that time when he asked you and stuff? You said yes, and what was kind of discernment? What did that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we viewed it as a second discernment stage. Mm-hmm. So although we were joyful in planning this beautiful wedding, I remember the marriage prep was really important to us, and it was such a gift. We got an amazing mentor couple. We went to an engagement retreat. We met with our priest. And I do remember there was this moment in the Basilica parking lot where I had family members that had been divorced and for certain reasons. And I thought one of these reasons was kind of the trump card. I was like, well, if this happens, and I remember Sano challenged me and said, no, that's not even a reason. And he says, if you think this is the reason, we need to reconsider. And we just went and prayed and had some time to really discern. It gave me time to really look in my heart and be what does the catechism say? What is this commitment? Mm-hmm. What are you going to say?
No, yeah. No, that's it. I think it's just sort of that it's, that it's, what is it? It's indissolvable. I think.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the exact term, but it's what does that really mean? And it means there's no ifs or buts or anything like that. It's and so we wanted to actually in this engagement period make that commitment then and there. Are you willing to stay in the marriage, for better or for worse? And I think we took maybe it was like a week break or something. We kind of did our own individual like silent retreat kind of. I even, I was talking to her dad at the time too, and I told him, "Yep, we're like discerning this seriously, so we might have to call it off if we're not all like aligned there." So yeah, but what we came away with that was that every couple discerning marriage during engagement should ask themselves that question: will you stay with this person for any for every reason?
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, to be honest, when Heidi and I were going through that too, I think one of the things that the church does so right, and if you take it seriously, the discerning of marriage, it really brings up a lot of questions where you never really thought of. And it's kind of sad today too, is like where the divorce rates are so high amongst couples, and just the breaking of families happens like on a whim, And like, I think it's because oftentimes we don't ask those hard hitting questions, and really don't discern and take time and really root ourselves in Christ. And so it's beautiful to hear like you guys are doing that. And for us, it was so fruitful. We did the same thing. Just really like asking ourselves the hard questions and really kind of like diving deep into it. And like, I think you guys are like did even more, like really like truly took time away from each other to actually discern things. And that's truly beautiful. And so, and just from engagement stuff, and I know during that time too, there's a lot of planning, and planning a wedding is not fun. God bless my wife. So I was going through a fire academy during the whole time. So she was trying to like do all this stuff, and I was like, I was just so tired. I was zonked after a full day of work, and I couldn't imagine like planning a wedding. It's very stressful. Like, did planning the wedding kind of like affect you guys at all? Like, did it like kind of like make it a little more difficult for a lot of things, or like discerning stuff like that?
Absolutely. It felt like a distraction,
to
be honest. All of a sudden, things that you didn't care about, either you or somebody cares about. So, yeah, I think it was a challenge, but it was I also say that engagement is a good, I don't know, I think maybe it's turning it into something beautiful, but it's a hard thing that you have to work together as a couple.
Yeah.
And so when you work together, it's like good preparation. Anything can be used for good. Even though I think you would say some of the distraction stuff of marriage, like the wedding, the party planning, is not very fruitful. But yeah.
Yeah. And so from there, going into the actual wedding and stuff and the marriage, like when your guys' wedding, like what was your guys' wedding date?
Oh, like when we got married?
Yeah.
June 2nd.
June 2nd. So summer wedding. And how many people were there?
About 200.
Wow. Okay. So it's funny because in Asian culture, Vietnamese culture, 200 is like little, like 500, 300, 400 is very normal. For a Western culture, like 100 is like a lot. Anything above 100 is like, whoa, calm down there, guys. And so like 200 is kind of similar to where we're at. And so there's a lot of planning and whatnot. And from that day, so did you guys get married in Minnesota? Or did you guys get married? Where did you guys get married at?
Yeah, we got married in St. Peter's, Mendota.
Okay.
And it's actually we got married in the oldest operating Catholic church in Minnesota. So it was like the historic church. They had a newer church, but it was like a older white building, and it barely fit 200 people. And it didn't have AC. I think. Luckily that day there was a little bit of rain, so it was pretty cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I think looking back, the wedding went without a hitch. It was like perfect. And the parts that maybe didn't go well, we didn't hear about it. So it was I think it
was perfect.
Nice. That's beautiful. And so when was your wedding again? Like the 2017?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what? 2025. So that's
we just did 7 years.
7 years. Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations. 7 years. Yeah. It's so funny because you hear these couples like, oh yeah, I'm like 54 years, 60 years. You're like 30 something years. Like, wow, we're still so early on. Okay. And then after that, talk a little bit about like, marriage life in the beginning, like marriage life, like learning to live with each other first. As I know sometimes it's kind of be very shocking discoveries and just kind of like very, difficult moments and like trying to figure out how to live with this person. So what was kind of like marriage life for you guys in the beginning?
I think it was very joyful, but also very difficult. Like, to be completely honest, we did have a lot of differences that we learned about with, like Sana was very organized, very particular. Big reason I married him. Love it about him. You're living with that person though, and they have like ways they like everything done. And I think it was a lot for me because I wanted to be the best wife, but you just realize all your failures. I think it's very humbling. It was very humbling for me because I kind of came in being like, I'm pretty great. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, that's very humbling. I see my flaws and I see ways that I can grow. And it was very hard for me because, like I said, I just still, like, to this day, like, one of my deepest desires is to be like the best wife and best mother to serve. And so whenever you see your inadequacies, it is painful. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Anything from you, Sana? Yeah. Oh, you don't want to say anything to get you hot water?
No,
sit on the couch tonight.
No. We had a lot of, fun jokes about like the things the differences of like how we did things. Yeah, I would also agree. It was very joyful, very exciting, to live in the same house, to be together, like plan our schedules. I remember like even like sharing calendars and, before, even when you're dating and engaged, you're still comparing each other's. You're like, okay, are you available then? But then suddenly we were planning it together. So I think there's a lot of joy and excitement around that. But maybe the thing that I remember in the first couple of years of marriage was how much better I had to be for Jenna. Like when you live by yourself, it's all integrity. It's all like honor system, right? Like you only have to get better if you feel like you need to, or someone convicts you out of the blue, or your parents or your siblings. But now I have a spouse, a bride, who's looking at me saying, "Oh, you weren't, I'm not hearing as many affirmations from you," or "You look distracted," or "Come to bed on this time," or So it does. The constant self-improvement, is always going to be there. Your spouse is kind of like a harsh mirror right in front of you. And, I always kind of relate it to work. Like I'm a manager, so I have a team, 8 designers, and we do quarterly reviews. We do annual reviews, and I talk a lot about performance and give feedback. But I think when you're married, you can get that feedback any time of the day, week. It's not annual reviews. It's definitely more often than that. It's probably every date night or every other date night. And so, I realized, okay, this is not like a one and done thing. Like I have to constantly be thinking about how to find ways to show her love, make her feel loved. And
Yeah. And just kind of going back into like what you said earlier, Jenna, about like inadequacy, of being a husband or a wife. I felt that completely when I was like, you know what? I'm a decent guy. I'm a decent man. And like, I can, and then when you get married and you realize, wow, like there's so many flaws that I have that it really affects my spouse, and I need to be better. I need to do things differently. For some days, I remember some days where I just you know what? I'm not going to do anything. And that turned into like a week where you don't do anything. And then now you realize, I can't do that. I gotta spend time with my wife. I can disappear for like a week being single, but you can't do that here. And so something like that, where it's just like, you feel like, this continual growth and just like the humility, of being a husband or a wife for each other, always humbling yourself. Like, okay, what can I do better? What can I do to kind of like help you, and same thing vice versa. So that's really beautiful. And then to the next part, when did you guys kind of first start talking about like starting a family, and kind of go into that story a little bit?
It's funny because we had that conversation, I think like the first month of marriage, right? It's this whole like the openness conversation, right? Like, okay, if this happens, would you be open to it? And we even we made bets. I think it was like if we were both wrong and we got pregnant, like I got a new speaker and Jenna got like a bike trainer. I forgot what it was. It was kind of like a joke. Now this kind of leads into maybe like the sobering side of it is that we actually didn't get pregnant, and we didn't get pregnant. Well, we still haven't gotten pregnant. Been 7 years married, and looking back on the first couple of years of marriage, there's a lot of joy, the honeymoon period, but we had probably our toughest years of marriage in year 1 and year 2. And in the moment, and we did counseling. We talked about the commitment of we're never going to get divorced, but that's one thing you say when you're engaged. It's another thing when you're married and you start having these arguments, and that kind of like temptation starts bubbling up. But we went through that, and looking back, kind of in retrospect, a lot of it, I think, was due to how we were dealing with the wound and the loss of, and like that you deal with infertility. Because, like, and Jenna will speak a little bit more to her side of it, but on my side as a husband, like, you're reminded about that every month. And as a husband, there's, in some ways, there's like not much I can do about it. And so I think that actually sort of might have been the root behind some of our arguments, feelings of inadequacy, frustration. We were chasing with other things. We got another dog. So we had 2 dogs. We moved houses. Like, there's different things we were trying to do. And I think a lot of it was trying to kind of compensate with, like, we're so open to having children and yet we can't. And our friends are getting, having children. We were dinks, dual income, no kids, right? We were just kind of living for ourselves, traveling. And there was a bit of emptiness and longing. And so, I think that was sort of, maybe Jen, you can speak more to that part.
Yeah. So just with like the infertility side of things, I know like that's kind of more of a discovery phase, right? We're like kind of discovering more and more. If you don't mind, Jenna, it's like kind of going into that a little bit, like just your discovery phase and kind of your guys' journey as you guys are figuring out more and more with what's going on.
Yeah. So basically, actually, when we were engaged, or maybe even before, I always thought I had endometriosis, which is a medical diagnosis that definitely makes it harder to get pregnant. But I had been to doctors since I was 18 and just kept hitting a wall. Everyone said, no, you've just got painful periods. Come to me when you've had trouble conceiving after a year of marriage. So I think they give different advice now, but I'd been dealing with these symptoms for a long time. So I told Sano and had this really, blunt conversation, like we might struggle. And he was like, okay. And you prayed about it. And we said, he was aware and he said, okay, we'll just see where this goes. And so right away, we were very open trying. And a year in, I did get into a doctor that decided to do surgery on me for possible endometriosis. And it was true. It was true. I did have endometriosis. I think it's more like moderate grade. So I had my first surgery a year after marriage. And then we were kind of doing different things with hormone, supplements and just different things within our faith to kind of increase the chances of getting pregnant. Yeah. Different diets. I went to integrative medicine, just lots of different things that we tried. And then about 2 years in, kind of took a break a little bit. And that's when we bought another house that we worked really hard to remodel. And I think that was part of our healing, to be honest, was remodeling this house, because I realized that emptiness and kind of the struggle that we were having in our marriage, we yearned for a project. We yearned to be creative together and build something together. Because our lives at that point where we're both working 9 to 5 and that creativity and that like togetherness just wasn't quite there that we wanted in like parenting. And so this was, I guess, a little way for us to be creative together. And a lot of our friends said, don't do it. Like, it's going to be really hard on your marriage to remodel a house. But it honestly was really fruitful. And I think it was one of the pieces God used to bring us together in a little way. Yeah.
And I guess, like, if you don't mind me asking, just like going to some of those like moments of like figuring out like, like this is going on. Like, I guess, what was your relationship with God in those moments? Because I can only imagine it being difficult. Like, God, why are you doing this to me? Like, why are you not allowing me to have, children? Why are you not allowing me to be fruitful? Like, what in that moment of your life, those 2 years, like, what were you going through, and what was your relationship with God?
It was pretty rock bottom for me. I was losing hope and just feeling all of our friends were getting pregnant. And I just remember wanting to feel joyful for them, but I would come home and just sob. And so there was this real grief, and there was this real like, God, like, this is such a beautiful, holy desire to give our life and my body in this way, and it's not happening. So yeah, there was this rock bottom, and I think it was really hard for me to be present to my friendships and to my husband in different ways, because there was this loss of control. And so it really took, there was a pivotal moment where I think God gave me a vision where I was clinging on to this cliff. And I was driving to work. I don't know how I made it to work, because I had this vision as I'm driving to work, and I'm clinging on to this edge of this rock wall. And I just hear God saying, "You can let go." I said, "No, I can't." And I listed off all the reasons. He said, just let me hold you. And I let go, and he was holding me on a cloud. And it was that moment where I was like, I really fell in love with the surrender novena. And I really pointedly decided, which I had to decide every single day, and I still do, to let go of my life, because I think I was grasping onto my vision of a holy Catholic family at that point.
Yeah. And then just on your side, so I know, like being a husband, like at moments, did you notice that there was like a change, or like, I guess like, you know, like as you guys were journeying through this, and like, kind of like the difficulties of getting pregnant became more and more and more. I don't know. Did you notice a change in Jenna? And then like in that sense too, like from your standpoint, like what did you feel as, you know, like probably frustration and stuff came in? Like what was kind of your mentality, and what was your relationship like with God, and like maybe praying for your spouse, or kind of going through this with your spouse?
Yeah, it's I still found my role to be a little bit more like secondary in all of it, and that's not to like diminish it for others if they feel like it's front and center, but like I was seeing maybe the secondary effects of like the arguments in our marriage, or the struggles, or how I needed to learn different ways of like comforting Jenna in that moment, instead of trying to always fix. This is one I couldn't fix, right? And there's things that I could do obviously on the infertility side, and you know, we could keep praying, but it was an interesting time for me to figure out like how to support her, how to keep praying, how to what is it? It was very isolating for Jenna as well, and obviously I can't relate to it in that sense. As, you know, I don't think we had any friends at all that we knew of that were struggling with it. And it's one of those things where even if you do have friends that are, it's very private. You don't just share about it. You don't talk about it anyways. But this kind of leads into the other topic around adoption. But I do remember even our process of discerning adoption. There was a point where we had always talked about it, actually. Before Jenna mentioned that when we were dating, she talked about endometriosis and this possibility that might not be able to conceive as easily. And so, you know, I had already kind of gone in with that piece. But even when we started talking about adoption, there was still a period where we were talking about it, but we hadn't taken that like step forward. Mm-hmm. Because in order to take that step forward, I think Jenna told me at that point that it felt like she was leaving behind this hope of getting pregnant. She was like, well, I feel like if we actually start going ahead with this application, then it's like we're just giving up on conceiving, because there's a lot of other things you can try and do to help with fertility. And I noticed a change when I think you finally came to this piece in prayer about, let's go forward. This is where God's calling us right now, and we're gonna trust him on this. We might still get pregnant, but we're going to move forward with it. And yeah, there was sort of a big change. And even then, that was 2 years into our marriage. You know, there's still been a lot of growth and development since then too.
Yeah. And then I guess like was alternative methods of of fertility, was it ever an option for you guys? Like I know like out there now there's IVF and all the other things. And I know that it's, for us Catholics, that's we don't believe in that. But like you know, because and a lot of people like in moments of like kind of like despair, like they kind of grasp to what they can see in different opportunities, and like I can imagine it being very difficult, like seeing, you know, other people get pregnant and going through some of these other methods. Whereas like us Christians, we're called not to do that. We're called to do, you know, just really like do what is natural and what is God's will. And so did it ever like, you know, come across your mind for you guys, and Was that ever something that, like you guys ever like just was like, hey, you know what, like maybe?
I'll let Jenna go more into it, but I will say alternative methods is something that a lot of people have no problem suggesting.
Yeah.
It's this is another topic that we've noticed. It's like no one ever suggested to us adoption. Never even brought it up. But we heard from multiple people to look into things like IVF or have you tried this? And even in the Catholic world, like all the NAPRO, NFB, like people have no issue bringing up those ideas because they're trying to help. They're trying to offer. Have you met with this doctor? Have you looked into this? Have you gone to this shrine? So I think we heard a lot of that throughout our time. But maybe Jen, you can go into a little bit about like why IVF was really we never considered it, but people have asked us why not.
Yeah, I think that it was kind of a blessing, even though lots of people suggested it. I guess it was never really, I never really contemplated it. I just felt very at peace saying, no, I believe that God's hand is in our family and that we're going to trust him in this, even if it was hard in some moments. Because we really, believe that marriage is supposed to be both fruitful and or unitive and procreative. And so we wanted to keep both of those aspects intact with whatever we decided to do with our infertility journey. So that we did have a lot of people coming up to us, and they were so. I really honored them for saying that because they wanted to help us. But yeah, it did kind of made us take a step back and be like, if we do get pregnant, it kind of gave us this question of like, if we do get pregnant, will we say, well, it's because of this gluten-free diet that I am pregnant today, or is it because of God? And in the end, it's God and his timing and his perfection. So I think we just decided to do what we could within our faith. Obviously, we didn't just sit back, but also say maybe adoption is God's plan for our family.
Yeah.
And there was something we heard at a healing retreat that really helped us in this, that there's a lot of there's a lot of methods and things that you can do that are still aligned to your faith, that the church is, with like NFP, natural, family planning and charting. But we heard at a healing retreat that it's okay to pray for your body to be restored, the way it's supposed to be. So it's like, God, said, be fruitful and multiply. So if there's something about our bodies that's not, that could be restored to that's okay. And that's how I think that's sort of like the boundaries that we used in terms of like seeking medical treatment. Because we drove to Omaha to the St. Paul, Pope Paul VI Institute there, and kind of went all in on that. But they're all about kind of restoring the body. I think at that point, something like IVF to us felt like it was going kind of outside of those boundaries. And even with any surgery, even within like Pope Paul VI Institute, there's always a risk you have to consider to like the mother, the children, the embryos. And so those are some maybe practical reasons why we're not interested in that for that reason. But we also want to make sure that we're just doing things to restore our body. Same with myself, right? I had a medical procedure as well, just to restore it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think infertility just it affects so many people, but then it has like many different phases, like different, like I wouldn't say phases, like different faces to it. Like it's not only just on the spouse, on the wife, right? It could be on the husband. And in those realms where you're trying to figure out what's going on. And I can only like, that's like just like trying to figure it out. Like it's a difficult kind of like, and oftentimes you kind of left in a tailspin, right? You're like, oh man, like it could be this, it could be this, it could be that, it could be a whole bunch of so much variety of things, and people are giving you left and right where it becomes so confusing. I can only imagine how difficult it is just to be like, okay, what do we do? And just the hopelessness at some points. But like what you're saying though, is like just surrendering it up to God. I think that's something that just truly is truly beautiful, and like it's easier to say than to actually do, and to actually see people who actually are doing it. Something really, really is like motivational, because oftentimes my life too, I do the same. Like I'm like, I'm gonna offer up to God. I'm gonna let God take care of it. But in reality, my simple brain's like, I know, I want control. And I always am left so disappointed, so sad, and then so like just in despair. But it takes time. Yeah. And so how is it going for you guys now? kind of with all that stuff, it's been 7 years now into marriage and kind of going through this journey of a little bit of infertility. Like how are you guys doing with it now at this moment?
I will say another turning point for me was it was my birthday, and there was this beautiful portrait of Mary and Elizabeth rejoicing together about the new life. And I saw it at a friend's house, and I just started crying. And I said, I want to rejoice with my friends in their pregnancies, because I know I said earlier that was really difficult for me. And I fell in love with that portrait, and Sano surprised me on my birthday and got a big version and hung it up for me. And that was when I was like, Lord, you don't have a quota of babies in your world. Like, I can rejoice with my friends. It doesn't take away the grief, but it also doesn't, like, I can be joyful for them. I can actually experience joy for them. And then the joy grows. So I think that was also a turning point that you had really called me to, being joyful for my friends. And that really changed. I think the joy and the surrender changed. I will be honest, I still struggle, and I think, I don't know if that pain will go away. I think, there's some months that are harder, and I've heard it said, and I just think it's so beautiful that the monthly blood and tears that you may experience in your cycle can be united to Jesus' blood and water on the cross, and that he's there with you. And that just really spoke to me. But yeah, I think it is. I think there's such a peace that we have now with our beautiful children that have come to us through adoption. But I don't know, all in God's timing. But I don't know. It is still kind of a wound that I offer up monthly for him and for our children.
Yeah. And so I think as I'm alluding into it, and so shifting gears a little bit into adoption. And so apparently, at what point in your marriage were you like, hey, you know what, let's go for it, make this a reality? Because I know it's probably was mentioned, you guys were talking about, it was mentioned before in your engagement throughout your time and early in marriage. And at what moment were you like, you know what, this is going to be a reality, let's go for it?
There's a movie that we watched on our anniversary, second anniversary, Instant Family, Mark Wahlberg, and it's about the story. It was, I guess, it was kind of we related to it a lot because in the movie, Mark Wahlberg and his wife, I don't remember the name, they're like remodelers, and they're like remodeling their whole house, and then they decide to adopt a sibling group of 3. It's interesting. And it's a really good movie because after we watched that, we were obviously in tears, and we were like, this is the time. Let's start making the steps to doing it. And there's a lot of steps to going through to like go through the application process for adoption. You have to take classes. You have to usually work with an attorney or an agency. They ask you a lot of questions. They pull all of your I don't want to scare anyone, but it almost feels like you're like going to become an FBI agent or something.
Interrogation style.
They interrogate you. I forgot how many interview sessions we had, and it took about, it's on your own pace as well. So we took a little bit of time in between, but maybe it took us like a year to be like fully in the system. And we worked with consultants.
Wow. So like it took a year. If you guys don't mind, maybe just like maybe detailing a little bit, like what are some of those steps you guys had to take? I know you had the interviews and the background checks, but like kind of maybe just briefly from like, like what were some of the like points you had to hit within that year?
So first it was like the application, which is some of that background check stuff. And then you get into waiting to complete a home study. Okay. And the home study is kind of where they get to know every detail about you.
So do they send someone to your house?
You're assigned a social worker. And then usually, I think we had about 8 sessions with her where she would just ask us different questions about our background. And then that gets sent to the state. And then they approve you to now adopt. And so then you're in the waiting phase. And that's when you can work with a consultant. You can work with a consultant earlier. But you can work with a consultant that works with multiple states. And and I will preface this by saying our first adoption, we were in the domestic infant program, meaning that we were open to a newborn.
Okay.
At that point, I think 0 to 12 months.
Yeah, one like thing that we had talked about since we were only 2-3 years married at that point was we wanted to adopt a child that wasn't older than our marriage, because we thought it'd be a little bit weird if we're like, you're 5, we're only 2 years married, so so at the time we were like, okay, that means that we would be in the infant category. And home study, I think it sounds like they go in and like inspect your, everyone thinks you got to clean your house, make everything childproof. That's probably more, I think, for the foster, program, because they want to make sure there's not like scalding hot water and the doors are not weird and you have enough bedrooms. It's more that they're like, there's a social worker working with you. They're getting to know every detail about you, and it's all the intent is good. They don't. There's a lot of abuse that has happened in the past with adoption and foster parenting, where like. And so they're just trying to do their due diligence. And so it's the hard part is that like, if you have your own children, no one's scrutinizing it and interviewing you and saying you're approved to have children. But when you're in the adoption process, the state is putting a stamp of approval saying that, you can, and you have to renew it every year and go through the process again. It's expensive, time consuming. We had to get letters of recommendation from our friends. They reveal all your finances, counseling, medical, so that, and domestic infant adoption has a process. International is actually even more rigorous.
Wow.
We started meeting more people who had adopted. I think at the time for international adoption in Korea, you had to get a psychiatric evaluation independently.
Wow.
Each spouse.
I think even if you were on any sort of antidepressants, they would disqualify you.
Really?
And I don't know what country that was, but I remember hearing.
There were some countries that are very strict.
Very strict.
So,
wow. Okay, so when you guys got to the like point where you guys were approved and you guys were open to, I guess like what was it called, the domestic?
So like in the U.S.
Okay, the U.S. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you guys were approved for that, what was the process going and meeting, let's say, your first child? And first child's name is Luke, right? What was the process, and like how did you guys meet, and what was kind of that like? What was that kind of like?
Yeah, maybe let's preface. When they told us that once you're approved, you'll be in a book. We were going to be in a book with our agency with 60 other families.
Okay. And
they said that the average time is about 18 months to get matched with a family and have a child. And they said that, well, it's first come, first served. So you're at the back of the book. And when there's families that looking to place their children for adoption, we'll let them look through the book. But obviously, you'll be in the back because you guys are just approved. So we kind of went in knowing, okay, this could take years or months, and you have to indicate your level of openness. And so Jenna being a medical professional, she was a pediatric nurse working at a hospital. We were pretty open at the time. We're like, yeah, we can handle some level of medical issues. We'd be open to it at least. And so we were in the book by August, and we started getting like potential matches within a couple months. They'd be like, oh, this birth mom might be interested in your profile. Would you be willing to match with this child? And at that point, you have to actually make a commitment that if matched, you're willing to go all the way. You can't say like, well, we'll depend. They're sort of saying, give us your yes now, and then we'll see if the birth mom agrees.
You usually have about 24 hours to say yes or no.
Wow, that is quick.
And I don't know if the stat is still true, but at the time when I read it, it was like there's like 120 there's 20 families that are looking to adopt, and there's per like one child.
I think wasn't it 40?
40, yeah, it's something. At least in the U.S., it's most people are on waiting lists. Most people are waiting because there's no orphanages right in the U.S. And so we were like in the pool of matches several times. We never actually got matched, but that was where we had to kind of we'd look at the brief profile about the baby and the birth mom and say, yep, we'd be willing to.
So at this, I'll just tell you the story of our son Luke's. It's probably my favorite story besides meeting Seno. He was traveling to Seattle, and he doesn't travel to Seattle much for work. He was in Seattle, and I got this email from our agency, and they said, this is an interesting case. We have a baby that's almost 3 weeks old, and the birth parents want to meet with you. Can you meet tomorrow or the next day? And the baby's in Minnesota. We've been working with consultants all over the U.S. or one consultant with agencies all over the U.S. So Sano and I had talked that if we heard about a match, I was going to call him. So I think you're in this like pretty big meeting, and I give him a phone call. He's like, what? And I'm like breathless, kind of crying. I'm like, you'll never believe this. There's this family that wants to meet with us, but they want to meet, I think it was like tomorrow or the next day. So we're going through it and we're just super excited. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get a red eye flight back. You're going to pick up a bassinet from your boss in Seattle and mail it up.
We had some supplies, but we didn't have everything. So yeah, my boss had a bassinet that I was going to pick up with an Uber on the way back to the airport.
So I pick him up. He had no sleep. I picked him up at like 7 a.m. We drive 2 hours north to meet our son's birth parents. And there's no guarantee. We're just meeting. And I have never been so nervous in my life to open a door. And they were the most lovely people. And our social worker was there, and we talked about our background and who we were. And we just kind of delved into a lot of things. And then the social worker brought us into separate rooms to kind of debrief. And then we came back together, and Luke's birth parents looked at us, and we thought they were going to like meet some other families or whatever. And they said, would you be our son's parents? And it was just the most beautiful moment of my life. And they had actually looked through, we kind of asked why us, and they had looked through, I don't know, was it
37 profiles, and only wanted to meet with one family. We were used to birth parents looking at like maybe 20 of them and wanting to meet 5, kind of like winnow down. But so we thought that was incredibly like unique that they only wanted to meet us. It wasn't even, yeah.
So then they were like, when do you want to bring him home? And we're like, tomorrow? Like when? Like what's the soonest? Like we want him home with us. So we went to pick him up in a snowstorm, and actually like the paperwork just didn't get through. So we were waiting by a coffee shop, making our baby registry list, like putting Target orders in.
We picked up the car seat that day too.
Mm-hmm. We went to the car seat store, and they're like, oh, well, this model will come in. We're like, we need it today because they're going to meet our son, and they were like, oh, everyone's so excited about it. But it was a whirlwind. And my friend who has now 4 boys, we had seen them 2 weeks before, and she goes, I feel like I need to give you these diapers and bottles and boy clothes. It was boy clothes. She's like, I only have boy clothes. I'm sorry. She's like, just in case it happens soon. And, most families wait a lot longer than we did. So it just felt very providential.
Wow.
But meeting him was the most incredible thing. Like,
what was kind of like your feelings at that time for you guys? Like, what was like that first time meeting? Like Luke.
He was so much smaller than I had imagined. And for some reason, you just think the baby's going to be like, I guess, bigger. He was so little. He was only 3 weeks old. We listened to, was it First Day of My Life, I think, by Bright Eyes. Obviously tearing up to it. And he was very calm. And the foster mom who was watching him at the time was like, oh, he's just tricking you guys. He's usually not this calm. Yeah.
And he's just perfect. He's absolutely perfect. He's been such a blessing. It was trial by fire. I remember just like trying to read through the baby books rapidly because we were trying to figure out feeding schedules and everything. And I think he had his own little grief period, actually, in the first couple of weeks when we had him.
What did that look like?
So I thought he had colic. I was like, he's got to have colic. Like Sana went back to work 2 days later, and he had been calm all weekend. And Monday, he just cried for hours and hours. I was trying everything. Like, I was like, I'm a pediatric nurse. Like, I should know how to do this. And it basically came down to, I think, what he had been through just with his, couple weeks of trying to figure out his new family. I think it was part of that. And it was also feeding schedules. And it was also, we were so in love with him that we kept him up too much. We did not let this guy sleep because I was just like, oh, you're so beautiful. So I think we got his sleep schedule nailed down. I was just calling my friends every day, asking for on-the-fly advice. And a couple things changed, but now he was honestly, what we hear, he was a very easy baby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And so I guess besides that adjustment period, after that, it was kind of just like a hand in a glove, right? Was it kind of like just like after that, it felt really normal? It felt normal afterwards, after that like initial like kind of, no? What was it kind of like?
I mean, I would say we've talked about this, but I think we felt like we were babysitting him. We were like so in awe of this child and loved him, but it still felt surreal.
Like we didn't feel like his parents. We kept thinking like we were watching him, and then someone's gonna come over and be like, "All right, thanks for watching him."
Yeah, so I think that was like a process for us. And then of course when he's saying like your name and everything, I just like would forget that I didn't birth him. In that, I think when I see friends and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have a birth story, but he just feels so much a part of it.
And I guess we don't have this to compare with, but we've heard that there wasn't, compared to our friends with, birth babies, that there wasn't like a transition period. Like, we were just, we weren't like, you were just in like normal physical health. And then the baby came home. And so suddenly now we're like waking up through the night and we're like, oh my gosh, like this is so hard. And I think some of our friends said that like, there's like a transition where they're like prepping for it when they're pregnant and getting things ready. And ours was kind of really abrupt. And we did have I think we had 2 days where we were telling people. So we kind of had that like announcement period where like people were crying and so happy for us, but it was 2 days. It wasn't like months and months. So maybe we were playing catch up on kind of adjusting to it, but.
And I would say nesting was, I had this moment where Luke was only like, 4 weeks old, and I was frustrated because my office was where his baby room was. And it was just, things were kind of everywhere. And I was like, I never got to nest. Like, I just remember having my mom come over crying, like, please, I just want to put his clothes in the closet. Like, these little things that I think part of maybe my womanhood and maternity that felt quick for me. And I just remember like, I have to put some pictures on the wall. Like there was just these things that I think Sana was like, it's okay. And I was like, it's not okay. We have to nest right now.
There's just some things that like men will never understand. And that's just like, I've come to terms with it. Like my wife's the same way. Like we're making this home cute and cozy and like make it like a home. And for me, I'm just like pragmatic mind, like, sure. Like cool. Or like, do we really need that up there? And then she's like, yes. So just coming from a man's perspective, and Sandra probably understands, we will never know, like making it home. But but I appreciate like coming home and like, wow, actually feels really nice in here. Like I feel comfortable, feels like a home, it feels like a nest. We're coming home to our nest. Like, and that's not because of us. It's because of our lovely wives. And so, I think that's really, really beautiful. And so maybe like at what point did it feel a little more like normal, like getting adjusted to things and like the really like that maternity, I guess like feeling really just came out, and really at that point like felt like, hey, like this is no longer just babysitting, but this is truly our family.
I would say like we fully settled in about when Luke was 1, but I think about 6 months. Like I think he was starting to say our names about 4 or 5 months, and that was when he said Appa to you, and I just remember I was like, oh, that's us.
And Appa's
it means dad in Korean.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, dad in Korean. That's beautiful. Okay. And so how old is Luke now?
He's 2.5.
2.5. Okay. So within that time period, I'm guessing you got, and then you guys adopted 2 more. So what was kind of the journey there? At one point you're like, you know what? We like, let's keep this going.
So I had my 3rd and 4th surgery with, for infertility in January of 2024. Yes. And at that same time, we had discussed restarting the adoption process. We said, Lord, here, like we desire siblings for Luke. Here we are. We'll see what your plan is. And then I think we actually didn't really start the application until June or July. And then you can take over. Well,
yeah, and there was another interesting, like how God, his role in all of this. But I remember it was the first surgery in January. We're in Omaha, and I have a friend who calls, and we're just talking about, we're catching up, and he knows our adoption story, and he knows why we're in Omaha for the fertility procedure. And so I talked to him in January, and fast forward, I guess 6-7 months, I'm on another work trip. Once again, I go on these like once or twice a year, and this friend gives me a call, and he says, "Hey, are you guys still like, are you guys still looking to adopt more children? Are you in the process?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're open, and we're kind of in the early stage of this application again." And he says, "Well, I have a friend who has 2 children, her grandchildren actually, that she's looking to place with a family. And he says, would you be open to it?" And I said, "Yeah, like we'd love to learn more. Like send me the details." And he sends me a photo, and I sent it to Jenna, and that was kind of done after that. But yeah, and that happened to be when I got the call. I was at work. It wasn't as urgent, like fly home, but it was actually it was the day after Jenna's grandpa had just passed in Oregon. And which actually happened to be the birthday. That was actually Isaac, our second oldest. His birthday was the day that her grandpa passed. But yeah, that's sort of how it kicked off this next process, where this one was a little bit different than the first adoption situation. That one we went through an agency. Maybe it took a little bit longer to get kind of approved, because in this case there was already a family that had reached out to us. You would call that like a direct private adoption. We were just working directly with the family and a lawyer in that case. And so, we went back, prayed about it, kind of, we went to the Adoration Chapel, sat with Jesus, kind of had that on our heart. And, I remember at that time, when I was praying, I felt inadequate. I felt like 2 children, backstory, the children's name, Ellie and Isaac. The oldest girl was 4 at the time, and the boy Isaac, he was 2.5. So he was only 4 months older than Luke. Wow. So they'd almost be kind of like, I guess, twins, right, in that sense. And we didn't know what was after 2, like how to parent, what comes next. Like we were just like,
jumping from 2 to 4.
Yeah, it was definitely. So there was aspects of it that were pretty intimidating, and kind of in classic God style. It was, he was going to make all things new, not what we had planned, not what we were thinking was around the corner. And so when we went to Adoration Chapel, we were praying with a lot of that kind of uncertainty, and God, where are you leading us? Should we say yes to this? And I felt my discernment then was, I said, I can't do it. This is too much. And I felt Jesus kind of strongly say, give more of yourself. Because I said, I don't have anything left to give. And he said, give more. I said, okay. And it was kind of like the loaves and fishes. I was like, I've got 2 fishes and loaves, or 2 fishes, 5 loaves. I think. Yeah. And he was like, give more. Kind of what Jesus said, just pass it out. And then the second part that I felt in prayer was, this is going to be more of a burden on Jenna. I mean, she's at home. She's going to be, doing more of the raising of the children because I'm working. And I said, I don't want to put this on her. Like, can she handle it? And he put it in my heart really strongly. He said, this is her heart's desire. Don't worry about it. He says, and so then I had a lot of peace about it. And, I kept it to myself. And then Jenna separately was, and so we talked about it afterwards. But that was sort of the discernment. So I felt a little bit of peace. I said, okay, well, then I'm going to go off of that and see what Jenna heard.
And I'm a person who overthinks, gets more anxious about things. I felt complete peace when I heard about these children.
Wow.
And it was such a gift from God. I don't always feel that peace now. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, this is kind of a lot. But God gave me that gift when I heard about them. And I just knew it was a gift. And I was so convicted. I was like, this is it. Like there was no real doubt for me at that point. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of unique, that usually our roles are a little reversed with that.
Yeah. Oh, like sort of like making a big decision. So yeah, I guess I felt to wait on what her decision was going to be on it, and you had a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I was scared. So fast forward, you guys discerned, okay, we're going to go through with this. And now you have 3 children at home. What was kind of like the integration a little bit? Like, what was Luke's response when he said, oh, I have a brother and a sister now. What was kind of that like as you brought them home? When did this kind of go through, and when did you bring the two of them home?
So we found out in July of 2024, and we kept in touch with them doing FaceTime video calls. We flew out there in November, several months later, thinking that we were actually going to pick them up and bring them home. There was another complication that kind of delayed it. So we flew back home, but then they officially came home January of this year, 2025.
Wow. Okay.
And Luke had met them. We were prepping him. This is another thing that we talk to parents of multiple children, that they go through something similar, but there was like a grieving leading up to when Ellie and Isaac were going to come home, because we felt like, oh no, our time, one-on-one time with just Luke is going to change, forever. And we just want to give him the best, the most, and this is going to like change that dynamic. What if he doesn't like it? What if he needs more attention? So there was a lot of worry there.
Yeah. I think Luke is just we were just so floored by God's gift of him to us. And there's so many things about him that amaze us, that I felt like we were like, wow, like if this is it, like this is a joy, this is beauty. And so, yeah, there was this kind of like grief in realizing our time with him would be different. Mm-hmm. And it was a transition. The kids came home, and people had, the classes you take, prep you, but you're like, oh, now this, you just always think, oh, it'll be different for us. And it was hard. The first month, especially, we look back and everybody was grieving. Everybody was struggling.
Oh, yeah.
Luke had a complete change.
Personality change.
Personality change. You would think almost he was going through like a little mini depression almost. He wouldn't hug anyone. He wouldn't even hug us. Like, wouldn't look anyone in the eye, really. Would just play by himself. Wouldn't even really want us to play with him. Just very, very, very different. And that was the hardest part for us, seeing him go through that. But he came out of it. His siblings, he loves them.
Okay.
And he giggles with them more than he giggles with us.
we noticed that kind of the first time we visited them, they were all running around playing, and we saw this part of him where he was like cackling, cracking up, like belly laughing, and we hadn't seen that. I mean, he's goofy with us and smiles and grins, but we were seeing this like funny, goofy side to him, and so that's when we were like, oh, he's gonna, and now he's like that with them. But yeah, it was almost interesting. I think when they first came home, the first week he was like, oh wait, they're staying here, and like now the tension is really shifting, and like people are well-intentioned were bringing gifts, but there was a couple times where like they were opening gifts and Luke was just like watching off to the side, and there was a lot of toys, a lot of new things, emotions in the house, and he wasn't maybe used to it. And so yeah, I think that was quite a struggle for us to kind of see that and not know like how long it was going to be that way. If this was the new normal. Yeah. And
then just like knowing we hadn't been parents to a 4, she turned 5 in February, so now she's a 5-year-old. Just again, we were like perusing parenting books every night for 2 hours talking about parenting strategies, because it was just a lot for everyone, and just where they were coming from, what they were used to.
Oh, yeah.
Having them learn to trust us, a lot for everyone to kind of figure out. So we still are in the thick of, I think I've already read like 3 parenting books. We're trying to always constantly change our strategies and see what each kid needs. And it's true, every kid needs something different, and we're figuring out the hard way. So.
Yeah. And I can only imagine just like going from 1 to 3, and it's a drastic shift and change. And like, I can imagine going to church on Sundays is because I've seen like, like families with 1, and that's a lot already. And now you have 3. And so I can imagine that's just like going to mass is like, what is like, I'm guessing the kids didn't go to mass before. Did they go to mass? No. Okay. So like faith wasn't really instilled in the kid, like the 2, Ellie and Isaac beforehand, right? It was kind of, this is something brand new to them too.
Yeah. And stark contrast, Luke was going to daily mass with us every morning. I mean, he could recite different prayers and sing the song to us and stuff. And so we had the discussion a couple, like maybe, I guess we took him to mass the first week, right?
We did. We were nervous, but
yeah, we had that talk about, okay, are we going to go into the cry corner area first? Are we going to bring crayons and toys? Or are we just going to sit in the pew and see how it goes? And we went back and forth, but then we were like, you know what? We got to first try and see what it looks like to bring them into the pew, the way Luke's used to it, and set that as sort of the precedent. Because if we go to the cry corner first or bring a bunch of toys, then they might just think that's the base. Yeah. And so we went with that decision, and I think it being a newer environment for them, they were pretty cautious. So they did really well the first time they ever went. I mean, it was we felt so blessed. I think we were kind of in tears, like looking up at the crucifix and just like, wow, this is amazing. And since then they've gotten more comfortable, and so it kind of looks pretty typical.
Kids being kids,
kids being kids, and we still kind of maintain the same rule of like we don't like have them, coloring on the pews and stuff, or we don't bring snacks. I know, at least at this point, they do well enough that we can kind of stay kind of in the middle of the pew, and they follow the directions and stuff for now.
And we try to sit up more closely, so they can see what's going on.
Versus in the back, and you're like kind of hiding away, and then like, yeah. I think like a lot of families are scared to have young kids up front because like, oh, you're gonna distract everyone. But I think that's a beautiful thing. We're like, I think as parishioners, everyone there should understand too that we want the kids there, and like I think it's beautiful when I see families bring the kids up. It's kind of crazy, kind of hectic at some points, but they're being exposed to it. You're being exposed to Christ, what's going on, and so I think that's a very beautiful thing. So, okay. So as we're coming towards the end here, I think you guys have such a very beautiful story, and it's like it's moved me, and it's really given like me hope then too. But what is, I guess, like specifically with infertility, I know that it's it affects a lot more people than you would expect, and it's a very private matter. No one really talks about it. Like, what is one thing that you maybe what is some encouragement that you can give to those couples who may be listening today about infertility, and kind of like things that can help them continue and give the strength to continue to journey on that?
I would say a couple of things. I think God sees you, like just that. I think is really important, because I think sometimes you feel like you've been forgotten. And you're not forgotten. God has a plan for you. He sees you. You're not alone. So many struggle silently. And so if there's just one person that you can meet that can be with you in this, who's willing to be vulnerable, I think that bears a lot of fruit. So find your people, know God sees you, and just, I would recommend the Surrender Novena. I pray it daily. It's what's honestly been the best thing for me. So,
maybe my like not advice, but what I would want to share, I guess, as a dad, husband, guy, is what we don't really hear a lot, and I think it's the awareness around adoption. I know everyone's got different ideas for medical procedures and diets, but I don't think we hear enough about just being open to like what God has in store for the gift of adoption. And it's not a silver bullet. It's pretty messy. It's going to take you through trials and struggles and test your marriage. It's going to test your trust in God, but maybe that's the beauty of it. And I just want to be the voice of saying, like, if you are going through infertility and want to have a family, pray for the openness to adoption, because now we're 3 kids in, 7 years married, with infertility. Like, adoption has been such a huge blessing. I can't even, and it's when I look back on my faith journey, how God showed up and made all things new through adoption. That's the thing that I hold on to the most. Like the way we adopted Luke, the way we adopted Ellie and Isaac. It's just a clear sign of God just being so with us, and it gives me so much encouragement. And then even when we're in the thick of it, when it gets rough, it's like then I know it's like real too. Like it wasn't like everything got handed to us and it was like easy on the way out. It's like, no, this is a dream. We're living the dream, which is all the parenting, littles, struggling through this together. But I think it's been a huge blessing on our life. And there's all these unique stories, but these children, I think the verse that stood out strongly to us about the children was when Jesus said, "Let the children come to me." And I think that's how we see our role in all of this. Mm-hmm. We are helping the children come to Jesus by loving them, giving them what they deserve. And they're just blessings on our lives, letting us, kind of share in that grace of parenthood, I guess. Yeah, being a father, being a mother, God's love.
Mm-hmm. And maybe what is something you guys would want to share with maybe families who are currently in the adoption process? And I know the adoption process can take a long time, a lot of waiting, a lot of uncertainty. What is one thing you can maybe say to them to give them some encouragement?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's just, it can be a long journey. And, I think really lean into your prayer life, really lean into, your marriage too. If you can really find things that you can creatively do together as a couple, I think that's a really beautiful thing to do while you're waiting. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people talk about, traveling or doing some of those things, which is great. But I think like maybe what gets more to the heart of maybe women in this stage of waiting, I don't know, is doing projects together. So find some things you can do together, whether that's like playing music together or rock climbing or doing some like
remodeling
new
a house.
Pickleball. Yeah, remodeling a house. Something that you can like be a team on, because I think that's really an important part of your marriage that is a good muscle to build before you just start parenting.
Well, I think similar to like infertility with adoption, you don't know. It seems like no one we knew had adopted. That's what it felt like prior. But then once we adopted, we started to hear more about these stories. Like this, we found out one of our parishioners, he's like, "Oh, I was adopted," and I'll go to a retreat and they'll be like, "Yeah, I adopted 2 of my kids." And so like, I think reaching out, talking to people, that it always helps. Jenna's now in this like adoptive mom like coffee group, I think.
It's amazing.
And I think just hearing their stories helps a lot. We, the first, I think it was week 2, 3 or 4 when Ellie and Isaac came home, we were pretty, like, that was weird in the thick of it. Like whenever someone asked like, how is it going? We're like, it's going. and I was off for 6 weeks. So, and that was like us full time. And we sat with one of our friends from the parish who had adopted 2 children, international. And they just sat with us for like 2 hours, and hearing some of their tidbits was so insightful. It was like, it like unlocked all like just new ways of thinking and, like feeling better about, like maybe there was some guilt that we were feeling or confusion. And, it just helped. And everyone's story, their story is very different from ours, but it just helps. So I would say like the opposite of, isolating yourself, like reach out, talk to people, hear their stories. It'll be a little different, but there might be like a light bulb aha moment or something where something makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of being vulnerable. That is something that we've tried to tell people about our infertility or adoption, and it's borne so much fruit. So if you are open to entrusting someone with your pain, it can relieve the burden. It can be beautiful.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And then one last question for you guys here is, through this whole journey and just through the ups and downs and a lot of it, just for you guys, like maybe just sum it up real quick is like, what was God's role in that? What was his role in your guys' ups and downs, difficult moments, like and all of that, what was his role for you guys as a mother, as a father, as a wife, and as a husband?
Pivotal. I don't know. Like, I feel like if we didn't have our faith, our journey would look very different within our marriage, especially within our path of becoming parents, not only with following the teachings of the church, but feeling like I think there was real fruit from the suffering, in the sense that I feel like I've been able to be more intimate with God in a different way, because I've had a pretty easy life. I feel very blessed. So this has been helpful for me to grow closer to God. So I think, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah. Oh, so God's role in,
like what was he for you during this time? Like during the whole, ups and downs of marriage, ups and downs of infertility, ups and downs of adoption. What was he for you in that?
I mean, this might not be the right metaphor, but like, I think it's seeing God's hand in all of this. Like in our marriage, sometimes when things are going well, you're like, it's like, I don't need God. Like things are going well, right? But then when you hit the lows, you're like, I need God now. And I think we've seen that through all the ups and downs, the blessings and the trials, when things get tough. And like we've had a lot of blessings, but then the infertility part of it was sort of where like everything else in our life could be going well, but there's that wound. And so we still saw God's hand in all of it. And then with adoption, like you could have said, that's just only a blessing. But then we saw his hand in it, like in the ups and then the lows when things get tough and we're waiting. For both of the adoptions, there were some unique circumstances that like drew out the waiting period. And we really had to rely on him. God with us, right? That's Emmanuel, and then abide. So like just being with God, staying with him. Those have kind of been what I feel like I've been reflecting on this whole journey.
Yeah. So like hands that are always working, having like blessing and doing work no matter where it's at or what point you guys are at, right? The hands in that sense.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So before we close everything out, I know I asked you guys to do a prayer to start off the day, but I'd also like to ask you guys to do the prayer to close us out today too, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Lord, thank you so much for this beautiful time together. Thank you for just your hand in all of our lives and you seeing us. I just want to close out today with the surrender prayer that I pray all the time. Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. Praise you, Jesus. Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Well, Son and Jenna, thank you guys so much again for being on here with us today. I really do appreciate it. And I know that there's plenty of people out there who are probably in the same boat and maybe need to hear this. So thank you guys again so much. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in and just listening to what Sano and Jenna have to share. As we close out today, just remember that God is always walking with us no matter what. And he's the one that we are his clay and he's the one that forms us. So grab your cup and remember that God is good.